The concept is literally using thin air for a spacecraft in a new type of orbit, orbiting at really low altitudes to the Earth, so between about 100 and 300 kilometers, and not having to take any propellant with us, just using the air of the rarefied upper atmosphere as propellant. So it's got a couple of applications and potential benefits. For first of all, scientific wise, we've never been able to have spacecraft orbiting at such low altitudes before. We call it very low Earth orbit, or you can say sort of the upper atmosphere. So scientifically, it'll be amazing for mapping things like the gravity field, the climate models of the Earth in terms of getting data from these like upper atmospheric altitudes. Another application is Earth imaging as well. So it's really important to be able to have high resolution imagery of the Earth, again, like for climate purposes too, if we're monitoring the way nature is changing down on the ground. And it allows us to just have much better resolution for much smaller cameras and apertures, so we can have smaller spacecraft. And finally, for telecommunications as well. So things like Starlink are kind of, sometimes in the news at the moment, and kind of gaining more and more popularity. So having spacecraft in these new kind of really low orbits will enable faster connections. So faster connections from your phone on the ground up to the spacecraft. People have said the concept is a bit like the Ferrari of space. So something that looks maybe a little more aerodynamic than most of your ordinary spacecraft. It'll have an intake on the front in order to collect the air. And sort of push it backwards towards the thruster, where the idea is to ionize it, turn it into plasma, and then accelerate that plasma to create thrust and to keep the spacecraft in this orbit. So the UK Space Agency has very kindly given us funding for the next stage of the project, particularly to my supervisor, Dr. Andrea Luca Fabris, who's the PI for this. And he's really leading it. So they're enabling the University of Surrey and the Surrey Space Centre to continue researching this. So this is based off of my PhD, which is finished now, but taking it to the next level and carrying on the work and really sort of being able to research the system as a whole. So being able to explore the thruster much more, how we go about generating this kind of thrust, and much more the spacecraft itself too. So also how we can work on the intake, compressing this airflow efficiently, and also how it ties in with the orbital modeling as well. So how the orbit evolves in these very low trajectories, and the sort of perturbations and the effect of that. So yeah, the UK Space Agency is giving us the chance to really look at the whole system. So it's definitely a challenge to launch a spacecraft like this, but it's a really fun one and it's a really exciting one to try and address. It's definitely like a very multifaceted problem. So lots of different angles and lots of different research kind of comes together here. Hopefully in the next couple of years, I think it will be realistic to see something being launched in space and us testing this concept. It's already started being testing on ground in the last few years in vacuum chambers. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see something in space.